Okay, welcome everybody. This is Actualize's first event in our Inclusivity and STEM discussion series. Tonight we're going to be discussing who is tech for. We've got three really wonderful panelists with us. We've got Gail, Ro, and Daniel, and they are three Actualize graduates who are going to kind of talk us through some of their experiences, answer any questions you might have, and then we can open the floor to a real like discussion sort of feel to this. I don't want anyone to feel like this is not a lecture. Okay. Feel free, if you've got questions, feel free to ask them. If you have concerns or you have ideas that you want to share, if you're already in tech and you're like, these are the things I've seen too, like, please feel free to jump in at any point. Like, that's totally fine. Cool.
We are an intimate group tonight, so we can really have a nice discussion together.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Actualize is a coding boot camp. I am an instructor there. Joey and Catherine here are also instructors there. Catherine and I have been working to put this series together, and we're really excited to bring this to you. Something really interesting about the three of us instructors, though, is that we are all also Actualize graduates. We went through this program years and years ago now, feels like centuries ago, deciding to make career changes and getting into tech. So we were once in that place of being like, I'm not really sure if it's for me, maybe it is, kind of testing the waters. And now the three of us all work at Actualize. So I always tell incoming students, I'm super biased about our program. I think that we have the best one. But that's just me. This is not a pitch for Actualize, though. We just work at Actualize. We want to make sure that we're having these conversations with people because I found the more that I started talking to others about how I got into tech, we all sort of have like this similar story of I didn't think it was for me, right? I didn't think that this was a space that I could thrive in or I would enjoy or that I maybe belonged in. And that's not true, right? So I want to really enable as many conversations of you can be here if you want to as possible. So this is sort of like us getting started with that. So tech has come a long way. It's gotten a lot more inclusive, but we do still have a lot of work to do, right? So I think that starts, like I said, with having these conversations and really breaking down the misconceptions of what it means to work in tech, right? And what it can mean for different people in different positions. So that's really our goal here. Catherine, do you have anything to add? Do you want to?
No, you summed it up beautifully. I agree with you 100%. All of us have come from sort of non-traditional paths that led us to tech, whether we didn't think tech was for us or it wasn't even on my radar. It wasn't something that was ever discussed in school. Like it was all men in like my middle school, my high school, and so it was just one of these situations where it wasn't even on my radar until much later in life. And I'm so happy that I found a career in STEM, a path in technology, and so I'm super excited for this program, hoping that we can convert other people to the STEM life, because honestly it's opened so many doors and it's just such a great community. And I've found the most supportive people in this community, and I'm really excited to expand that.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. I agree with you. Great. So we've got three panelists. Like I said, we're going to take a moment and let each of them kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves, tell us a little bit about your jobs and what you're doing right now. So we can get started with, I guess we'll do it slide order. Gail, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Gail, and I am actually I was the oldest person in my cohort. I'm 54. I was a math teacher and my job was kind of stagnant, and a friend suggested boot camp. I never thought that I could pivot at my age into tech, but I went through the Actualize program. It was awesome. I was a TA for a little while, and then I got an apprenticeship at Kin Insurance, and now I'm an associate data engineer. So I had to pivot again. My apprenticeship was all front end, but they didn't have any front end jobs. So they said, well, we have this data position. So I've completely pivoted again. And I think that's the great thing about boot camp is that it teaches you how to learn, and it teaches you how to dive into new and different technologies and be able to work confidently in them. So now I'm a data engineer and I'm really happy to be here.
Nice. Thanks, Gail. Ro, you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Ro. Before I pivoted into tech, I was kind of on that medical school track. I was a pre-med student when I was in university, and I also majored in Japanese. So I had nothing to do with the tech field before. So after I graduated university, I had this plan to move to Japan, teach English there for a little bit, and kind of just absorb myself into the culture there because I just love the language. And I just love learning new languages. But the pandemic happened, and so I was stuck at home, and I was like, what do I do? And I accidentally stumbled upon Harvard University's CS50 course. And it's a free resource, it's amazing. And that's how I got my introduction into tech. And I self-studied for about 6 months before I realized I had the determination, but I didn't really know exactly what I needed to study to get a job in tech. And so I found out about Actualize. I attended Actualize, loved it. I thrived there. And I also TA'd for Joey's class for a little bit, actually. That was awesome until I got my current offer at Disney as a software engineer, more specifically an application developer. Happy to be here too.
Very cool. Thank you, Ro. And Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Before tech, I did a lot of different stuff. I mean, I went to film school. I was working all kinds of different jobs, parking cars and stuff. Amidst all of that, I went to school. I was doing school for radiology, actually, when I met my current girlfriend, and she introduced me to software engineering, which is what she's doing right now as well. So that's kind of what spurred that thought of like, oh, maybe I can do this too. And yeah, started teaching myself for a good while, and that was very difficult. So I discovered boot camps, never heard of them before, and then discovered Actualize. That was great. Loved, probably one of the best decisions I've ever made is going to Actualize. TA'd for Amanda's class. Yes. I think the next cohort or
Yeah, it was the
some
next
cohort
one.
after. It
Yeah.
was the next one. Yeah.
Yep.
I TA'd and then got an offer at as a technical support engineer, which is not directly related, but it was still I was super grateful for it. It's still in tech. And then now it's like my title is like literally software engineer, data engineer. So I don't know what I am. I just call myself a data engineer because it sounds cool. So at Lyft, yeah. So I'm doing that at Lyft now. So happy to be here as well.
Very cool.
And I do want to mention, before we move on, while, a lot of us have mentioned, we've had, education in our history. Like what I love most about the STEM field is the number of people I've met who've had non-traditional educational paths as well. Like they haven't gone to college, or maybe they went to a trade school. Maybe they got their GED and they decided they wanted to go into coding. So like there is literally, no background that you can come from that STEM is not for you. So like it is just an exciting field to be in, and it is truly for everybody.
Catherine is absolutely right. Something else that can be very non-traditional is the way that you learn the tech. Like if you decide you want to go into coding and you decide you'd rather do a CS degree, like that's totally fine. If you decide, I really don't have 4 years to devote to a degree, I'd rather do a boot camp, that's fine too. If you decide, I just think this is neat and I'm not ready to make any changes yet, I just want to explore. I know so many people who are self-taught, who didn't go through any sort of programs, just kept at it and kept learning on their own. So there is no one size fits all way to get into technology. So
yeah. couldn't agree more. Some of the brightest people I've ever worked with as a software engineer have been, you know, people without a college degree, people who didn't go to a boot camp, who are self-taught in engineering. And it's just, it is, yeah, a very interesting and exciting profession.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, if y'all are open to it, I would love to like go around the room and just like have everyone kind of say hi and introduce yourself and tell us what you do. And then maybe like what area, like what has drawn you to coming to join us this evening, if you're open to it. Ben, you're the first person on my, well, Joey is that. Joey, we'll come back to you. Ben, you're the first person on my screen.
Okay. My name is Ben. I've been, big computer nerd forever. I actually got my bachelor's in IT and was struggling to find a job that I actually wanted to do. And then the pandemic hit and it kind of shut everything down. And my brother-in-law actually went to Actualize about a year before I did. And he was really happy with it. So I ended up going with it and I'm very happy with it. So, with everything I've been able to accomplish, I'm still struggling to find a job, but that's where I'm at right now.
The right place will find you and they'll snatch you right up.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. Arvin, you're next on my screen.
Hi. So 4 years ago, I did a web development boot camp that wasn't Actualize, and
Okay, we forgive you.
but I never got an interview. I don't have a bachelor's in anything, and it was really frustrating. And so now I'm in my last year of a computer science degree, and I have no idea. I'm super scared. I don't know what I can possibly do in tech. I come from a 23-year retail management background, and I'm afraid no one's going to hire me.
Ooh, it's a valid concern, but also there are definitely jobs out there for you. Definitely.
Okay, I'm here to find out.
Definitely. Please correct me if I'm saying your names incorrectly. Line, is it Line or like Line? No. Okay.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Excuse me
Hi.
to open my micro. Yes,
Oh,
hello.
Hi.
Yes. So I'm Lienu, and I'm a teacher right now. I would like to switch the career, but I don't know where to start. What I know is that I don't want to be behind the IT. So
Okay.
because we know that the future is around this.
Sure.
I don't know how to jump, so that's why I'm here.
Absolutely. Well, welcome. I am so excited to have you here. A lot of us are former teachers, so you're in good company. I know a lot of teachers who have moved on to tech. Sharon, I've got you next on my screen.
Hi. Speaking of teachers, I'm a language arts middle school teacher, and like a lot of teachers in America right now, I've become very disenchanted with my job and all of the shenanigans that go along with it. So I've known Amanda for a really long time, back from when we were children, and I knew how she made this career switch. And then I guess like 2 weeks ago, she made that Instagram post, and I was like, you know what, let's just try it. Because I, like a lot of teachers, don't really know how to pivot out of this career, don't know how to market our many, many skills into something else on a resume for what other people can do. And truthfully, I just want to be in something that is not as stressful as education. And that's my bar. So I'm here to explore.
That's actually a pretty high bar. When I was leaving teaching, my bar was, I just want a job where I can pee whenever I want to. I can walk away from my desk and just go to the bathroom as I need to. Steve, you're next on my screen.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Steve. I'm sorry I can't able to open my camera. I'm sorry about that.
Totally okay.
Yeah, so I'm a mathematics and chemistry high school teacher too. and I'm very happy that one of our guest speakers was a math teacher
Yep.
like
Yeah.
me. Hi, Gail.
Hi.
So yeah, so like you, I want to switch into IT, especially in software development, software engineering, front end, back end, full stack, hopefully. So I'm here to learn more about how teacher can switch and which kind of skills that we already have that we can transfer to IT, and what is the big challenge or big challenges that we face when we trying to switch into it. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here, and let's share our experiences, and thank you very much.
Great question, Steve.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you came prepared with the questions. Yes. All right. I've got Kiosha on my screen. You there, Kiosha?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm not a teacher, but I've always admired teachers. My background, I came from the military, and I've been doing military intelligence for a while, and being able to get up and go to the bathroom when you want to, Amanda, that's a big
Huge.
thing.
Huge.
But I decided to pivot so I could be closer to family. For the past almost 10 years, I've been deploying on and off. So this is a good change for me. And I'm here to show support.
Yeah. Kiosha actually is my TA right now. She's starting with my next cohort on Monday. So
Yeah.
she's been through our boot camp and she is in the job finding process. So
Actually, Ben was my student as well. Yeah.
excellent. Nice. And then last I have Joey. Hi, Joey.
Hi, as Amanda mentioned earlier, I am also a lead instructor for Actualize. But as she also mentioned, I also went through the Actualize bootcamp. I have a varied background. My bachelor's is in musical theater. So I'm a performer, but I also, I did get a minor in computer science. My dad teaches computer science, so I kind of been around it, but I had no idea how to break into the industry, much like a lot of you have echoed. And that's what brought me to Actualize. I worked in tech for a couple of years and then was fortunate enough to get roped back in and start teaching because I love people and I love teaching and I love coding. It's in marriage of all my favorite things. So yeah, that's what brought me here. That's my story. Hooray.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joey. And thank you everybody for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening. So like we sort of said at the beginning, I would really like this to feel more like a discussion than like a lecture. So we have prepared some like kind of get going questions if no one has any to jump in with immediately. And I thought we could kind of just start about like the before times, right? Daniel, Gail, Ro, if you could tell us a little bit about, I'm going to change the slide to some of our like before times based questions. What kind of brought you to this place? What was the thing that really got you here and got you hooked, and how I think that comes to us in a lot of different ways, so.
It was my friend Heather who gave me a big push and said, "What are you doing?" I was teaching I had gotten my master's in math and kind of priced myself out of the high school market. And I ended up teaching at a community college, but I was an adjunct, I was part-time, and my career was stagnant. And she said, "What are you doing? You should totally do this boot camp. You would be great." And I was really afraid at my age, not only of doing the boot camp, but of finding a job. And I found that because my first exposure to tech, again, I grew up in the 80s, so I remember computers getting started, but I wasn't super computer savvy other than like teaching software until I did Actualize, and until I kind of jumped into it. So I found that a lot of companies love career changers, especially teachers, because they like that we have communication skills. We have a lot of the soft skills that they're looking for. So I think that if you're coming from a background in teaching or in any other career, a lot of times you can play that up. And one of the great things about Actualize is that you have career counselors who will help you kind of maximize the skills that you have and show how they can be really beneficial to a company. So other than your coding skills, you have other skills to bring to the table.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, to share my own experience, the company I currently work for, Disney, actually reached out to me, and I only had one behavioral interview, and my manager liked me so much that he skipped the technical interview entirely and hired me on. And so what Gail is saying is right on the money, in that you have so much more to offer than your coding skills. You don't have to be a good coder, because you'll get there. With practice, you will get there. But who you are as a person and your personality, what makes you you is the more important thing. And so don't be too discouraged by maybe feeling like you're not an adequate coder, because that's not the important part. You'll get there. You have time. But the more important part is what your personal experiences, especially if you're a career changer, what you bring to the table. And yeah, that's just been my experience too.
Yeah, my experience has been a little bit different. Going into tech, I haven't been in the education sector. I mean, as I said before, I was doing film before this, which is pretty far removed from whatever tech is. I think what like my first exposure to tech was honestly like I knew it was a thing that people did, but I didn't know what it looked like. So it was like something you see in movie like the show IT Crowd. If you've ever seen IT Crowd, that's what I thought programming was, because that's all I've
Mr.
ever seen.
Robot, like
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like Hacker Man, I'm hacking into the mainframe. So that was my idea of what programming was until actually getting into it and seeing for myself and learning it. So yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I have and sorry to piggyback off of that, but Daniel, I have a somewhat similar experience. I didn't come from education. I came from the nonprofit background. And so I worked for these nonprofits. And they don't have a lot of money. And so they had a very lean staff, and I was very young. And so they were like, oh, she knows technology. She's the young one in the office. We're going to give her all the tech stuff. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, I've never done any of this, but I'll give it a shot. And I realized, oh, you know what? I kind of like this. But I never thought about coding ever in my entire life. Like I didn't take coding in school. It was literally not even on my radar. I don't even think I took one science class or one math class in college, because I did not need to. I went in the nonprofit field. I was like, I'm going to go to museums. I'm going to be a museum curator. No, that was did not happen. But it was actually a friend of mine who also suggested it, but I was like, I don't know. I've literally never taken a tech class before. How can I just all of a sudden go to tech? How can I just literally from nothing to a career in tech? How is that possible in such a short span of time? And it was a huge fear that I had. And I even told my parents, I called them up one day and I said, hey, I'm going into tech. And they're like, excuse me, you've literally never mentioned this to me before. And so it's one of those things where, yeah, you don't need to have this tech background to be successful. Like Gail and Ro and Danny were saying, it's a combination of the skills that you have built over the course of your life and your other careers that you've had, other jobs that you've worked. You have a plethora of hard and soft skills outside of tech that make you such a valuable resource, because you think differently than a lot of people who have a very traditional tech background. And so it's very cool.
I really love that that notion of like the soft skills and the things that make you really being more valuable than these like really explicit hard technical skills. And that has been my experience too. I tell my classes all of the time, and they think I'm joking, and I'm 1000% not. I've never ever once gotten a job because I was the strongest developer in the room. That has never been the reason why someone was like, let's hire Amanda. She's a coding genius, you know, like, because I'm not, and that's okay. But I would love to hear a little bit more from our panelists about what are some of the like skills that you brought into your current careers that you think have really, really lent themselves, or some of the soft skills that you had prior to your tech career that you feel like are really beneficial to you in your current positions?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah. Mine, I think, were the communication skills and the organization that you learn through teaching. And it's funny because, like Ro, when I landed my apprenticeship, I only had one interview with the guy who became my boss for the apprenticeship. So he literally hired me because he liked me. I didn't go through any tech interview. He had looked at my GitHub, but I was fortunate too that I did not have to do a tech interview. He just liked me. He liked what I had worked on. I think your personality plays a lot into some of these interviews. If they see that you're outgoing, you're willing to learn, and you obviously, if you're taking a boot camp, you learn things quickly. But I really believe communication, organization, and just an excitement and a willingness to learn tech goes a long way in getting hired.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, since I had so much experience, you know, customer service type jobs, that kind of set me up for my first tech job as a technical support engineer, which is customer facing. Just you're doing engineering things, but you're still talking to customers. And being in that role, I was mainly using Python and SQL, which ended up setting me up for where I am now because all I do all day is Python and SQL. So that sort of chain of events really did like set me up with my customer service skills that I didn't think were actually skills that were marketable or transferable, but they were. And that's how I got to where I am now.
For me personally, I don't really know. Like I had just finished college, so I feel like I didn't really have the time to develop a lot of the soft skills that a lot more people with experience are able to. I was just used to like studying, pulling all-nighters and looking at my textbook. I did work as a Starbucks barista and an Apple technician before I went to boot camp. So I think I could definitely relate with the customer service skill. And also, I think the problem solving skill that I developed while I was a technician at Apple definitely helps. But the number one soft skill I say helps me the most in my current job is this, like, first of all, the communication. So I'm not scared to ask questions. I have imposter syndrome like many other people. And in the beginning, that prevented me from asking questions, but my team was so kind enough to tell me, like, it's okay to ask questions as long as you do your research before and you're not asking it because you want the person you're asking to do the job for you, but you're asking because you've tried everything and you cannot figure out the problem. And so that combined with I just wanted to have fun. Like I love coding. And so when I'm stuck on a problem, it's really exciting for me. I want to share it with someone. I want to like figure out a solution with them. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love all of these answers. I would definitely say that the STEM career path and a career in technology are for people who are problem solvers, who like solving problems. Whether it's, you know, a really complex problem that takes you a while, whether it's something simple. If you find yourself that you enjoy the challenge and you are a problem solver at heart, like you are amongst friends right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make sure our attendees have an opportunity to ask any questions they have too. Does anybody have any questions for any of our panelists about maybe some of their experiences prior to them making that jump into tech? Totally okay if you don't.
And I'm gonna say something a little bit gauche right now, maybe. I don't know if it's appropriate to bring up money, but another factor for me looking into tech, honestly, like, was money. I came from the nonprofit field. My first job in nonprofits, I was making $23,000 a year. And like that is a complete, you know, 180 from what I was making as a software engineer, over 6 figures. Like it is incredible, like what you can do in tech, like that, the money that you can make. And I know that people, like, it's a kind of an inappropriate subject. People don't like talking about it, but it's true. Honestly, it is true. Like it opens so many doors, and it's one of these things where like it matters. It kind of does. Like the security feels really, really nice. I did not have that security before.
Catherine,
I didn't either.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I'm so glad you brought it up because it's such an important factor. And a lot of the reason that a lot of people really consider like leaving the positions that they're already in or the careers that they're already pursuing. And I am all about talking about, you know, like how much more money you could be making, because I think that is super important. And I'm grateful that you brought it up because I completely spaced on it. And that's not enough money to be making. And it's such a shame. Catherine and I had a conversation earlier, just as an aside, the two of us just like casually talking. When I was teaching in the high school, I was making $45,000 a year before taxes. And I was really struggling to make ends meet. So I had two side jobs at any given time, right? Like I was just running around from job to job to job like a crazy person. And I think that financial stability is huge. It affords you so much more than just like, oh, I can, you know, take trips, or I can, you know, there's so much peace of mind that goes into that, so much relieved stress.
Right. I don't have to budget when I go to the grocery store. Like I did not have those side jobs. I just had a mountain of debt that I have been chipping away at. And, you know, a lucrative tech career really helps with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Would any of our panelists like to speak to that at all?
Heck
I'm so
yeah.
glad you mentioned that. I've been waiting to say that.
Oh,
Thank you
please.
for breaking that ice.
No topic is off subject here, off limits.
To be honest, that's the only reason I'm doing tech is money.
Yeah, and that is a 100% valid reason. I love it.
It's so valid. Daniel, the only reason I work is because they pay me. Like,
well, yeah,
that's
obviously.
why we go to work.
Yes, Stephen, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Yes, thank you to mention the money factors. I want to ask if our panelist or our guest speaker open to with that. What is the difference like before coming into tech and right now? What is the difference about the incoming or the money that they make right now and before? So just the different just to give us like an idea. Okay. That's all.
Sure. Yeah. I'm happy to start if it breaks the ice. I come from the nonprofit sector, so I know I'm not a panelist, so I apologize if I'm like speaking over anybody. But I figure since I broke the ice initially with money, I might as well share salaries. When I was working in the nonprofit sector, I told you my first job was $23,000. I worked my way up and I was in nonprofits for a while. And so I was up to like 50,000. And then the last software engineering job I left before I was teaching, I was making 115,000 a year as a software engineer. So I was easily double what I was making before. But yeah, you guys do not have to share numbers if you don't want to.
That's
you can
fine.
talk
No,
in
yeah.
generalities.
So before I was doing minimum wage. This is my first career actually. So minimum wage was like what, $12 an hour back then. I did a NASA internship and that bumped up all the way up to $15 an hour. And then moved to technical support engineer. That was 105. And now I'm a contractor actually at Lyft. So contractors get paid like more on the salary end than regular full-time employees. Right now, I think it's sitting around 200 for a data engineer at Lyft.
Are you hiring, Daniel? No, I'm just kidding.
We are not. There's a hiring freeze actually.
Catherine, you're
so.
not allowed to leave me.
I know.
And before this, I was actually unemployed. So the difference was literally $200,000. I was in COVID hit. I was unemployed for like a year and a half. So
Now, I am working for a startup company, so my salary is not that high, but it's still way higher than when I was teaching. So right now I'm making about 65,000, but my company promotes people really quickly. So I know that within a year that number will go up, and like each year you're there, it goes up a little bit more. And we also get stock options because my company isn't public yet, but there are plans to make it public. So not only do I have my salary, I have stock options, and we have basically unlimited PTO, like within a reasonable amount. So even though I have not been there for a year, we have 4 to 6 weeks of PTO, no questions asked, which is really nice. So there are some other perks. Even though I'm not making a huge salary, I really love the company that I work for, and there are lots of chances for improvement. And I don't have to stop at 5 p.m. and then go grade papers. I don't have to work on weekends anymore. So it's really awesome.
I'm not going to share my exact amount, but I definitely fall in that range. It will depend on where you are hired and which company you're working for. So especially in higher cost of living areas, you will be paid more, as opposed to other locations that might seem smaller in comparison, but is actually a very good amount. Like I think in Chicago, the average is like for a junior software engineer, it's like somewhere between 60 to 75, I believe. And so that I think is pretty accurate. For me personally, before as an Apple technician, it was like 21 an hour. They called Apple like the Gucci of retail. It was still a retail store, but like they paid a little bit more than like the other retail stores, but it still wasn't enough. But yeah, I make way more than that now, thanks to tech.
And I will say, yeah, the tech salary, like I started off making about 60 in tech, and then it grew steadily year over year. And as you move from job to job, you get like a 15 to 20% pay bump. Yeah. So while I started in tech at 60, I ended at like 115-ish, which was really nice. Yeah.
It seems like tech salaries increase a lot faster than a lot of other careers.
That is correct. And Ro, I'm really glad that you brought up the cost of living thing. I think it was really important for us to mention that Daniel does live in San Francisco.
yes,
There we
so
go.
it scales. Trust me, it
California.
scales. It's a big number, but so is the rent. So
Well,
everything
and
scales.
And it is important to mention, because I know you like kind of briefly mentioned it, but since you're a contractor, the reason contractors get paid more is because generally they don't get like the benefits.
Yeah, are you getting benefits, Daniel?
I actually do get benefits.
Yeah, he
Oh,
does.
that's
He
I
gets
actually
credit.
do.
I love
Sorry,
it.
I'm not
I actually
trying
do
to
get benefits.
grill y'all.
Usually you don't, but yes, for I don't know what happened, but they gave me some, so
I
I
love
took
it.
Use it.
Take it and
Thanks.
run.
Take it.
I will
Absolutely.
speak as the contractor that doesn't get any benefits. So
Okay,
I am
okay.
also a contractor. I can get benefits through the company that I'm technically hired to. So I work technically for like this third party recruiting company that is then contracting me to Disney. And so no Disneyland for this girl, but it's okay. Maybe
Aw.
one day.
Steven, I saw you had your hand raised for a while. Do you have another question? And then we can get to
Yes,
Sharon and then
yes,
Mary.
yes. I just have a question for Danielle. How long have you been in the industry as a software engineer, please?
Well, okay, so I started off as a technical support engineer like a year ago, and then switched over about 9 months in. So it's been like a little over a year total since I've been in the tech industry.
Wow.
Yes.
And okay, thank you. So, wow. So how I want to understand because uh, we have I know it's probably some exceptional or some exceptions, I don't know because sometimes we have some misconception about a year of experiences. We need to, you need to have some amount of experience to land to those type of salaries or like if you are a contractor too, but I want to understand, is it how, is it your skills? Is it, I don't know, is it a chance? I don't know. I want to
No,
understand.
I think I honestly can't take credit for all of it because I've had help along the way. There have been opportunities that have been presented to me from just people I know. Networking is, I think Amanda said networking is probably one of the best things you can do when trying to land a job. I think my first job was through Amanda. She referred me to someone else. I knew her who knew somebody else. And then at Lyft, my girlfriend has a friend who worked at Lyft and she had an opening. She let me know, and then here I am. So it's really, networking is absolutely crucial. So there's tons of resources out there, which I can probably share now or later because it's like a lot especially for people of color. There's tons and tons of resources out there available, ready, and waiting for you to be a part of.
Okay, Daniel, thank you. So just to finish, if I understand very well, everything is possible.
Yes.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
Love
Thank you.
that so
Yes.
much.
Absolutely.
Sharon, you've got your hand up. What's up?
So I had to walk away for a moment to let my
Yeah.
dogs outside. And when I came back, you guys were discussing salaries and the benefits of being in tech, like time off and things like that. And something I would really love is to work from home. Is
Oh,
that how many of you guys are working from home right now?
I am 100% remote.
I think, yeah, I think all of
100%
us.
remote, always
Yeah.
and forever.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
There are, so to be clear though, because of my last job before this, I was working with Chase. Like there are some companies that are still hybrid. From what I can tell, the like older and more legacy a company is, the more likely they care about you being in office. Whereas a lot of the newer companies are like more chill with you being full remote. It kind of varies from company to company, but there is a huge wave moving in that direction.
Mhm.
So just want to point that out. Not every job in every company is going to be remote, but there are, like, especially in a post-COVID world, just like an absurd amount.
So many.
I think that if you were looking at jobs and there was a job that was required you to be in office every single day, that is a huge rarity in this field. Like that, it just doesn't happen much anymore because, tech, you can do your job from a computer. And so most jobs are remote or have the ability to be remote. And then a lot of jobs are also some sort of like hybrid in between, which is kind of nice. You still get like exposure to your colleagues and to hang out and socialize, but you do get those days home, which is good.
And often, because nobody wants to be in office for those hybrid jobs. Oftentimes those hybrid jobs will come with a pay bump because nobody wants to come in the office and they're like, we're sorry, we just really want you here.
That's true. That's true, because there's a lot of costs to the employee to figure in, you know, commuting to work, whether that be, I live in Chicago, I used to work downtown, and I would spend $100 a month on train fare, right? Which is not insane, but like, and you know, over an hour each way to and from my office. So it's a lot to ask for someone, especially like Joey's saying, in a post-COVID world, you know, so there are oftentimes commuter benefits or some sort of pay bump, some sort of incentive to get you there. But yeah, working from home is kind of the new normal. Like it's pretty regular. Yeah, it's a really good question. Lynn, is it Lynn?
Yes.
Okay,
This
cool.
question is for Katrin. Katrin, what is your job title again?
So I'm technically a lead instructor at Actualize. But before I came to Actualize, I've been here for about a year now. I was a software engineer 3, working for a consultancy company, which is where you work with a bunch of different businesses who are looking for you to build software for them. So I was working at a consultancy shop, and so I started off as a junior software engineer. Then I was a software engineer. Then I was an engineering manager for about a year and a half, and then I switched over and I started working as a consultant and in just building software for them.
Okay, last question. What is your background education? Like, do you have any master in software engineering or IT?
No. I went to college. I have a bachelor's in arts management. I don't know what arts management is, I'll be honest with you. I got a degree in it, but I couldn't tell you what it means. It just means that I paid a lot of money for something that I don't use anymore. And it was to work for like museums. And so I have zero educational background in anything technology related at all. And so, you know, it was definitely a surprise when I started telling people that I was going into tech. They're like, you have no tech background. What are you doing?
Very cool. Kiosha, what's up?
Yeah, I have a question. So how many interviews did you all do before you got hired?
Oh, I love that. That's a good one.
I think I did about 5 or 6. I did a lot of phone screens. Some of them led to tech interviews, some of them didn't. So I think like actual me being moved on to the next phase, I think it was like 6 maybe.
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
Yeah.
too.
I was trying to like get to the Actualize, like, you know, Actualize has their own like little tracking thing. I was trying to get to that, but I forgot.
Prentice?
Prentice, yes. I'm trying to like.
That's newer. Daniel, I don't think you were on Prentice. I think you were on
I
Careers.
don't know what that is.
Yep.
I was on career. Yeah, I was not on Prentice
Career
either.
Score.
Yep, career score.
Like, do you mean like interviews for that specific position or just like total interviews until you finally got a job?
Total interviews.
Oh, it's gotta be over 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
It has to be like a lot.
And I will say it becomes far fewer when you have experience. So for my first tech job, it took me about 3 months of applying to like 30 to 50 jobs a day, like a lot of phone screenings, a lot of interviews. I bombed. I can't tell you how many technical interviews I failed. It took me about 3 months to find a job. And then after a year of experience, when I was looking again, it took me 2 weeks to get another job, 2 whole weeks. And so it becomes faster and faster every single time and easier to sort of move on to your next position.
if I can speak on that a little bit, I like everybody's so different. I'm a bit of an anomaly. It took me 9 months, which is really long for most people, for like the general story that we hear. But it all comes down to just finding that right fit, you know, whether it be from networking or like Gail mentioned and even Ro mentioned, like, you know, not having to do the technical interview, whatever that may be. But then for my second job, I think I applied to like 1 or 2 places, but I had so many recruiters coming to me that I didn't even have to apply for jobs. I just was like, show up to the interview because people found them for me. So having that experience makes a huge difference, but you also have to go in with the mindset at the beginning that like, it's not easy. It does take work. It does take dedication, but eventually you will find that right fit. It's a good question, but it's a difficult question because there's unfortunately it varies so much from person to person. There's no hard fast, like if you do this for 2 months, then you'll be guaranteed a job, because you just don't know. Depends on what you're specifically looking for, what job market you're in. There's just like so many factors outside of how your soft skills and how good you are of a coder, any of that kind of stuff. So I like to put in that caveat because it's really easy to be like, okay, well, most people did 2 to 3 months, so I'm going to get a job in 2 to 3 months. And from someone that did not happen for, that might not be the case. But the way that I got through it is, you know, I did know that like I love to code. I love the logic and critical thinking part of it, solving that. I always tell my students that I approach coding a bit, this is maybe not great, but like a bit like a drug addict, because I love that rush I get when I solve the problem. It's like chasing that high. And so I knew that this is what I wanted to do with my life. And so it's a lot easier to like lock in when you have that carrot dangling in front of you. I don't know if that's helpful. I just like to put in that caveat.
That's a really important thing to mention, because you're absolutely right that getting that first job can be really tough and it can be really stressful. I am like right smack dab in the middle of y'all. It took me like 6 months. And from there, you know, getting your next job, my next job found me, just like Joey said, you know. I have a bachelor's degree in theater as well. And I used to have a professor who would say, you know, it's getting that first job, it's getting that first gig. And then from there, work begets work, you know. And kind of like Daniel had mentioned, networking is really helpful. Like the more people that you know, or who know that you're looking, or who know that you're interested or what you're capable of, the easier it is for you to find that next thing. For sure. Arvin, you got a question?
Yeah, I'm curious, like, how do you even know which types of jobs to go for after
Ooh,
your
I
boot camp
love that
experience?
question. Love.
Because, you know, yes, there are lots of opportunities, but like, oh my gosh, like, which ones do you pursue?
Sure.
When I started out, I was shooting out resumes to anything that even remotely seemed like I could do it. I found more opportunities on LinkedIn, so I would just Google or put in their search bar, you know, software apprentice, junior software developer. You just start throwing resumes out everywhere you can.
Yep.
Or I did anyway.
I did the same. I basically threw my resume at anything that I feel would be something I wanted to do. And so anything with like developer, coding, developer apprentice, anything. And that is actually how Disney found me. They found my resume in like this, I don't know, I guess companies have like a resume pool they kind of pull from. And so that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't like shooting my resume left and right.
Yeah, same. Just blasting my resume everywhere that I can that says software engineer, QA engineer. Like I mean, I didn't even start out as a software engineer. I ended up being technical support engineer because there's just so many different jobs other than software engineer in this field. And I think a good resource would probably just be YouTube and just like what tech jobs are out there. What does a QA engineer do? What does a designer do? and those roles and what's involved. I think that would probably be a good place to start looking to see what kind of stuff you honestly vibe with.
I got really lucky in getting an apprenticeship with Kin, because one of the perks of that was getting to shadow engineers in other parts of the organization. So I got to see like the QA, what the QA people do. I get to see what the UI UX people did. I worked with the front end. I saw the back end. So that I was incredibly lucky, and I got to kind of experience some of the other jobs, because data engineering was not even on my radar until I shadowed a data engineer, and then the job came up and I thought, that's really cool. I want to learn Python. I want to get better at SQL. And like Daniel, I pretty much do SQL and Python all day all day long.
I just want to be very clear also, Daniel and Gail were both students in my course, my classes, and I didn't teach them Python or SQL,
No,
just so you know.
no, and I was
Yeah.
not in any way, shape, or form. I was not the best coder in my boot camp. So
You
yeah.
guys should see you should see my capstone. Well, you shouldn't see my capstone project, but yeah, that's a mess. It's horrible.
Mary, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I had two comments from you were talking about salary previously,
Mhm.
and also about the resources, and then I had my question. So for the salary, I find that looking up like the official government statistics for the labor force is very helpful in comparison to just going on like Glassdoor or like Levels. So because I can do like a regional type of search and see locally what the maybe below average salary will be for starting out. And then I just basically take the salary from like a Glassdoor level, and then I kind of average it out so
Okay.
that I have like a good estimation of the salary. And then I wanted to know the resources that Daniel said he has or he knows about for like people of color.
Yeah.
I would be very interested in that. And then my question would be like, I am transitioning from a different industry into tech. And it seems like a lot of you or some of you also did this successfully. I wanted to know like what skill from like your previous experience or your previous jobs or career that you focused on when you were when you were making this transition.
I focused on communication, organization. I taught high school, so not only my communication skills, but my ability to work with either difficult people, difficult clients. I focused on like a lot of the soft skills that I had from teaching.
Communication is a really big one. I think what helped me get far in a lot of my interview processes is the fact that I talked out loud while I was solving the problem. And a lot of interviewers would comment that during the interview. They would always tell me like, I love how you walked me through what you were doing instead of just typing it out in silence. And so, yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo what Ro and Gail are saying. Communication are absolutely key.
Actually, funnily that you asked, because my first job, I actually asked my boss, I'm like, why'd you hire me? Like they wanted, well, I was curious. They wanted someone who had 3 years of experience in a programming language I didn't even know, and they hired me for it. And I was like, why? Like, I'm sure you would have been able to find someone who actually had the experience in this. And he said, I hired you because I could tell that you were a problem solver and that you like enjoyed the challenge. And so, you know, focusing on, like everyone was saying, communication skills, problem solving, you know, your ability to bring in past experience, whether it's, you know, working with customers, any like difficult people, working with students, any skill. Like I don't think there is one that is more beneficial than the other. Just knowing how to leverage your past and the skills that you have learned throughout your life, I think is a really a great way of you know, getting ahead in tech.
If I can piggyback off that, I think an important thing too that Catherine was saying about the idea that like, oh, I could tell that you love solving problems. If you can find out what you love about coding or about tech, that will shine through in your interview and is incredibly helpful insofar as when companies are hiring junior devs from non-traditional backgrounds, they are taking a chance on you and they are investing in you. And even in traditional backgrounds, they are investing in you. You are an investment because you are new to the industry. And if you can show them how excited you are to do the thing, then they're going to be that much more excited and that much more willing to take a chance on you because they know that you're going to follow through. So taking the time to find out why you enjoy coding beyond the money, though we are all in it because it's American money, is very helpful, and will help, you know, emphasize those soft skills that you're already so good at. Absolutely, communication is very important, though there is a bit of a, shall we say, stereotype about people coming from a traditional background as far as lack of communication. It does ring true in certain areas, having worked in the field and been around a lot of programmers my whole life. So being able to communicate your thought process, how you think, how you code, how you solve these problems is invaluable. But on top of that, just being like, really eager. I know for my first job, I also did not have to do a technical interview. Always great. But I think I can tell you the moment that at least the two devs that interviewed me kind of were like, is I just really, one of the reasons I love coding is because I love to learn. And I said, I just really want to learn and I want to get better. And I swear I saw them just kind of like melt and I was like, nailed it. And I got that job offer. So I don't know. I also want to emphasize that like finding the joy in coding is also very helpful in your hireability.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I think trying to marry different aspects of yourself to coding is really important. Like, coding is not the separate like thing that you do. Like, I also asked my team what they liked about me and why they hired me. And one of my senior engineers told me that she liked my dog app of all things, not my fully functional website that I created for my capstone project, not the other fancy ones. She liked my dog app. It was like a completely basic CRUD app, but she was able to relate to me because she herself was like a dog trainer. She loved dogs, and we were able to make that connection, and that's why she really liked me and picked me. So yeah.
I love that. Steve, yeah, you have another question?
Yes, I do have a question for our guest speakers about coding. Okay, so I want to know because you know most of people have to be afraid about the idea of be a coder. So I want to know if you before do you ever imagine that you will be a coder or a software engineer? How if before that you were afraid about the idea of coding and doing like programming language and doing programming stuff, and if it was the case, how did you do to go behind this and move into tech or move into software engineering?
Oh, heck yeah. I was scared to death. I like Ro mentioned imposter syndrome, and I still suffer from that from time to time. And I think one of the great things about boot camp is that it helps you get over that fear, because you literally have to just jump in and do it. And it's the same in my job. I get tasks all the time that I have no idea how to do. And you just have to go into it with enthusiasm, the willingness to learn something new. And I'm lucky that on my team, they don't want me to spend a whole lot of time struggling, because we have a lot of seniors, and so they're more than willing to pair with you. I think you literally just have to take that leap and jump in and do it. And gradually, like I still get scared at times when I'm asked to do a task, and I'm afraid that I'll blow something up. I've never blown anything up. I've never crashed my computer. I think you just have to take that leap.
And I've done all of that. I've blown up production. I've
Yeah.
damaged my computer, and it's okay. It's okay. At the end of the day, you know, you fix your mistakes and you move on. I'm still afraid to code. I'm still afraid that I'm going to break something.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Also, if it's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's all of it is fixable. I guess that's the point, is that any mistake that you make is going to help you learn, and it's going to be fixable.
There's a joke at one of my companies where you weren't a true programmer until you brought down the production website. And so it was like a rite of passage, like, right, you have to break the website with your code before you're one of us.
One of the things I love about Actualize is that there's a emphasis on talking about the idea of imposter syndrome, especially for those of us that are new and making this transition. It is very easy to have in your head this idea of like, when I am a programmer, I will be ready and I will apply for jobs. But spoiler alert, that's made up. There's no, I'm done. I'm a programmer now. The beauty of the tech industry, but also the terror of the tech industry, is that there's so much new stuff coming out all the time. You are constantly learning over and over and over again. Even with a 4-year degree, computer science is one of the few degrees that as soon as you graduate, that degree is obsolete, because you're learning how to learn, like Gail mentioned early on. And so because Actualize taught me about those things, I am not kidding you when I say in my last job, I was talking to senior devs that were like, I just feel like I don't know enough, and this person knows so much more than me. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. You do know enough. Clearly you're doing your job well. But I guess all that to say, imposter syndrome doesn't go away, and it exists at all levels. Even the people that you see that you're like, wow, how can they do this? Is amazing. They are it. That is what a software developer is. When I'm at that level, I will feel ready. They don't feel ready either. No, it's a constant practice, because there's always going to be someone that knows more than you, because it's literally impossible to know everything about technology.
Honestly, and I would argue that as soon as you are the person that knows the most in the room, it's time for you to move on so you can learn from more people. But yeah, Daniel, Ro, are you guys still afraid of coding, or were you afraid of coding or pushing code or writing code?
Oh, I love writing code, so I'm not necessarily scared. But yeah, like deploying a prod can be scary. And I wanted to say there are practices that you can, or there are habits that you can develop and practice so that you don't feel as scared when you're coding. Like learning version control, like Git, that is extremely helpful, because even if you mess up, you can just go roll back to the version you had before. And so deploying to prod or to dev even becomes that much less scary, because you already have a backup. Also, when you're coding, making sure you commit after like chunks of small changes, not after you've, rewritten the entire code base. Because if you go at it step by step, you're able to catch your errors quicker. And that makes coding a lot less scary.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's always scary. It's always scary. They threw me on to this this project that I now own, and it's like I never done this before. I never owned a project. oh, everything about this project kind of falls on me and its tickets and the work and stuff. It's super scary, but it's kind of like, again, as everyone has kind of said, you kind of just do it. You just jump into it because at the end of the day, most people are just giving an educated guess.
Yeah, as Catherine said, like my senior developer, like I look up to him and he's like amazing, but he's deleted prod before. And like after he told me that, I was like, you know what? There's nothing I can really do. And that kind of put like the weight off of my shoulders. So yeah, a senior engineer has deleted our code base, our prod code base before. So there you have it.
Mary, you got another question?
So I'm completely new to coding and I'm learning. Sometimes I'm like understanding things and sometimes I'm not understanding things. Did you guys like ever feel any like doubt, like big doubts, or feel like giving up when you were starting to code before you were successful?
Oh, I have to tell you
Big
about my,
time.
yeah, it still can happen, but I think it was my second or third day of boot camp. I was completely lost and we had a break or something and I just burst out crying because I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. And my husband, who always wants to take care of me, he's like, it's okay, you can quit. You don't have to do this. But luckily, I had the sense to call my friend Heather, who pushed me into this. And
Bless Heather.
yeah, bless Heather, because she started laughing and she said, do you know how many times she said, I've been there. I still go through this. She's been a developer for several years and she says, I still have times where I just lose it. And she sent me flowers and I got back in there and I did it. And so, yeah, I still have days when I think, oh my God, I can't do this. And you just kind of have to take a step back, have to take a deep breath, maybe go for a walk, take a break, and come back to it.
Going for a walk is an incredible thing to do.
Yeah.
Every ticket I have, I feel like this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, just as I thought the previous ticket was hard, they give me a new ticket and I'm like, wait, this is 10 times harder. What am I
Right.
doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I feel it for every single ticket, which I think is pretty normal because you're just kind of treading new water every single time, especially as a newer developer.
Heck, even 3-4 years into software engineering, when I was an engineering manager and then when I was at the consultancy, I had days where I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't think I am smart. I don't think I have the skills. Like, I don't think I can do this. And you just push through the rest of the day. You get up, you take a walk, you make yourself a cup of coffee or tea. Maybe you get some ice cream. I don't know, however you self-soothe. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, you know what? It's a fresh day. I'm going to try this again and we're going to see how this goes.
And
Taking
if you,
breaks is
oh,
absolutely
sorry.
crucial. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just small, like taking breaks is absolutely crucial to your success. So if you've been, doing coding challenges and hours and hours and hours, please take breaks. Take like multiple day breaks if you have to, if you're starting to burn out. Burnout's another huge thing. But yeah, that usually when I'm starting to get like, oh my God, I can't do this, it's because I look back and like, I probably haven't drank any water. I don't think I've eaten my lunch today. I haven't taken a break. So self-care.
Yes, and I think what I was going to say also in addition to the self-care is having kind of a buddy that you can commiserate with. So I am the only female on my team right now, but during my apprenticeship, I made friends with some of the other female engineers. So there are a couple that I know if I'm having a really rough day, I can reach out and we might jump in a huddle on Slack or something and just to kind of talk with somebody who knows what you're going through can help also. So making those friendships and if you do decide to do a boot camp, you'll have a whole group of friends who are right there with you.
For me personally, I would have a lot of late nights where I was coding and I would forget to tell myself like I need to go to sleep. Um, I need my sleep or else I can't function the next day. And so uh, realizing like what helped me was like giving myself a cutoff time, like 9 p.m. we're done. Like I don't care if you're stuck on this problem, you're done. You need to go to sleep because if you don't go to sleep now, that will affect how you perform the next day. And obviously that goes along with food and water and self-care. So yeah, don't let the coding keep you up. You can have your coding dreams. That's where you can code.
Mary, do you have another question?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have like 2 more questions.
I
Okay.
love it.
My first question is, have any of you had to move for opportunity, like to work or to learn, to attend some of these boot camps, that you're talking about? And then my second question is, there's a lot like of public talk about tech, like about these organizations. They're forward thinking a lot about diversity and like gender rights, disability rights, that type of thing. um I wanted to ask if like, is this really true from people who are working in the industry? And sometimes like I see on the job forms, like some companies are very overt about this, like they seem very okay about it, but then some of the other companies, it's kind of like you get a vibe that you're not really supposed to talk about any disability, you know? So I just want to know what is actually real and navigating that space.
Mike, I work for Kin Insurance. They are 100% about diversity and inclusiveness. They actively seek out just people from all walks of life, all different cultures, everything. We celebrated Pride Month, we got free Pride t-shirts. They really work to seek a diverse workforce. So in my company, that's definitely true. And I did not ever have to move. Actualize was completely online and my job is 100% remote. So I haven't had to relocate.
I think that's the great thing about a lot of tech jobs. You don't have to relocate because a lot of them are remote. So I also did not have to move. I attended Actualize online, and my current job is also online. And I will say, in my experience at least, my company, Disney, has been extremely accommodating, extremely open, diverse, inclusive. To me, diversity and inclusion goes kind of beyond like what the color of your skin is or like where you're from. It's also about acknowledging, like Gail said, like all walks of life, what your experiences are. And I have really felt at home at Disney because I have never felt like I was lesser because I came from a boot camp and that I had a completely different background from all the other engineers on the team. Most of them are actually, I think there was one that is self-taught, but the others they come from a more traditional like CS degree background, but they have never felt me or made me feel unwelcome. They've always welcomed my questions, even if to me they seem stupid. And so, yeah, it's been a great experience for me.
One of our apprentices was actually legally blind. And so I learned a lot about like accommodations and coding from him and things like font. So it was really cool to kind of get exposure to that accessibility part.
Oh my gosh, me too. Like, I don't have a blind or legally blind coworker or anything, but I have one teammate that is huge on accessibility. And so I've been able to learn how to code things so that people using a display reader
Right.
would,
Mhm.
it would be easier for them to navigate. And it's been so like eye-opening. It's been great.
Yeah, it was for me too.
A lot of things we kind of take for granted, but
Right,
Sure.
exactly.
And I've been fortunate to work for, again, extremely welcoming and inclusive organizations. What has really stood out to me, I have ADHD, and so I have had the pleasure of working with quite a few people who are neurodivergent, and they, like, the accommodations have been wonderful for everybody. Traditional jobs are like 9 to 5, but in a lot of tech spaces, it's get your work done, come in when you can, and do your job. And so, like, where I prefer to wake up really early and get in and get out and like do my work, we have some people who like who cannot wake up, or like that need to work later in the evenings, or who prefer to work on the weekends and take like a couple days off during the week. And it's just the accommodations have been wonderful, sort of across the board.
Yeah, we have people working from India. There's one guy they just hired on who's in the Ukraine. So we have people kind of all over the world. So we're all sort of on different schedules, and it's really nice.
Daniel,
Some
what
of-
kinds of things have you noticed as far as like diversity initiatives or?
Well, for me, I've kind of noticed it's something kind of every company's trying to get on board with, because that's what's popular. Not to say it's not genuine, but there's definitely a lot more work to do. The trend I notice is that, you get in, the underrepresented people, kind of in the bottom, but then when you look at management and above, they're all, white men. There might be a woman in there somewhere. So that's kind of where the diversity and inclusion um should probably be not diverted, focused on, is in management and above, the
Yeah,
people who are making the decisions. Because
absolutely.
I mean, in my previous company, the technical support engineers were kind of like the bottom of the engineers, and we were the most diverse team. And I looked around at all the other teams and above, it was like, well, why are we all down here? So that's something I've noticed at my previous company, and I know it's a thing that's very common in other companies. Currently, um, at Lyft right now, Lyft is a huge company, so I have no idea. I'm pretty secluded within I do finance data, so within the finance realm,
Okay.
and there's hundreds of other teams, so I have no idea what's going on with them, but that's the trend I have noticed.
Are you noticing any efforts in place to kind of rectify any of that? Is there any sort of like management coaching or sponsorship or opportunities
Not
in
really.
those sort of places? Okay.
Not really, honestly. I would love to see more of that, but it's kind of like I'm not in management, so I can't reach down and help
Sure.
people up here. So it's like I would like to see something. The industry is not perfect, so
No, absolutely not. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I want that. I said in the beginning, tech has come a long way. We do still have a lot of work to do. And I think that it's really important that we have these conversations and that more people get involved so that we can continue to have these conversations and say, it's great that we have a diverse foundation here, but let's talk about like scaling up, like the people who are making the decisions need to also consider various points of view and various walks of life and various life experiences and just ways of doing things. And if we're not doing it from the bottom up and from the top down, we're not really doing it at all, right? Mary, did that sort of answer your question?
You guys gave really great answers, and things that I'm gonna be also looking out for, because as I am observing, um, some of these companies and attending their events. And then I'm also trying to figure out like what boot camp program or like what university or college program that that I'm gonna go into. Like I kind of at the back of my head, I have some uneasiness because I feel like there's a very strong public um, sales, like, you know, type of thing that's happening.
Yeah.
But when I go to a lot of these events and I talk to people, I get kind of results like on the job type of result, like comment, and then I get like off the job type of comments. And so for me, I'm not really sure about it because
Sure.
I understand that I don't need to judge the whole industry, but I also understand and I really like coding, like I love it, but I also don't want to be in situations that are not um, they are not diverse friendly.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making a point. Like I'm not so young while I'm making this huge decision and this huge transition that I want to put myself in this type of situation maybe going forward. So I'm just trying to consider like the pros and cons and consider it objectively and not really think about like my feelings, because even some of the comments that I'm getting when I talk about my career transition from my past jobs, I feel like some of the jobs that I'm even being recommended are like based on this type of this what Daniel has observed.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about like a working in QA or lower tech or anything like that.
Sure.
I'm talking about like mid-level, maybe management type. And then I'm seeing what other people who are like who have advanced degrees where they're at, and then people like myself who have no degrees but like lots of work experience
Sure.
are also at. So I'm just trying to be real about the whole thing and not going with like rose tinted glasses. Yeah. Thank
Absolutely.
you guys so much. Thank you.
Sorry,
Uh,
yeah, I just want to chime in real quick because I worked for like younger company that was like more established. They weren't quite a startup, but and then I also worked for JP Morgan Chase. And those were kind of night and day. So the younger company, and I feel like this is probably true throughout the industry, the younger and less legacy the company is, the more likely they are to be very genuinely diverse and in their actions for that. And I saw that in the first company that I worked for. And they really care about their employees and therefore are willing to make these accommodations. One of the reasons I left JP Morgan Chase is because it was very clear they kind of didn't care about their employees. You're another cog in the machine, you know what I mean? And so that there's that point, but then I also wanted to say, Mary, you talk about not wanting to put yourself in a bad situation. But when I talk about like, you know, it takes time to get your first job and to find that right fit, even though it takes time and it is a hard process, you still do and should have the ability to say no.
yes.
And even if you start that job and you find it as bad environment, you have the ability to say no and leave and find the right fit, because the right fit does exist. There are enough companies out there, and I do truly believe there are enough companies that like are genuine and genuinely care about their employees that you will find that right fit. I don't know, but I don't know that I would say that like all of tech is faking their diversity and all of tech
Sure.
doesn't actually, because one of the things that actually I wanted to mention when we were talking about you know, the benefits as far as like salaries and things go, there are also these other benefits where I mean, at least I come from as far as like regular work experience outside of being an actor, like retail, I got treated so much better in the tech industry, even at JP Morgan Chase. You're trusted, like Catherine mentioned, like you're trusted, just like do your work when you can do your work. If you come in a little bit late or you leave a little bit early, no one cares as long as your work is getting done. You're trusted to like actually do your job. Whereas in these more like minimum wage jobs, everything is very micromanaged and like you can only take your breaks here and here and all of this kind of stuff. So in general, and that from that mindset, a lot better environment. There are those other benefits outside of just the pay bump. I do find that people in general are treated a lot better and are trusted more, which is like a huge weight lifted off. I don't know if that's helpful, but I just wanted to point that out. Like, if you hate it, I know that still there's like the investment, but I feel like there's a job out there that would be good.
I also wanted,
Oh, yes.
sorry.
No, go ahead, Ro.
I just wanted to add and I guess remind real quick that the job interview is not just them interviewing you, it's you interviewing them. And so you have to proactively ask the questions that you want the answers to, because of course you want that company to want you, but do you want that company? And you have to find that out through that interview process. And so don't forget, it's not all on the company to pick you. You also have that decision to pick them. So don't forget that.
Yes, Ro and Joey are absolutely right. At any point in that process, if you are like getting a bad vibe or you have any reason whatsoever to be like, this is not the place, like by all means, like tell them no, thank you, you know? There are lots of different companies. There are lots of different environments. Some of them are really genuine. Some of them are not. And unfortunately, it's up to you to have to kind of weed that out. But I think that asking these sorts of questions and asking about the diversity initiatives and asking about opportunities for, growth and career advancement and sponsorship or whatever it is you're looking for, asking about those things up front is really important. And I also want to be clear that their answer doesn't necessarily reflect exactly what the practice is, just so you know. I had an experience at a company where I was very interested in career growth and how do I move up from here? Similarly to Daniel, we actually, the person that I connected Daniel with was a former manager of mine at a different company in the same kind of role. And I had asked, what are the opportunities for career advancement? Because I was called a customer support engineer, which was basically the same thing. And they were like, in the interview, they were like, we talk about this, really regularly, the managers and the employees, like in their one-on-ones every week, like have an opportunity to talk about what's next and stuff. And that was great. And it sounded awesome. But in the reality of the situation, there really wasn't much of an opportunity for growth. It was really just what are you thinking? And what do you kind of want to be doing? And like, you would say your piece and they'd be like, cool. So don't be afraid to say like, these are the things I'm after, and these are the things I want, and these are the things I'm looking for. And this situation is not living up to my expectations. And I would like to see X, Y, and Z, or how do we get to this point, Kiosha has had her hand up for the longest time. I'm so sorry, Kiosha, what's up?
Oh, it's okay. I forgot my question.
No.
I'm just playing. I wanted to know if any of you all had any mentors, and how did you go about developing that relationship, or is it important to have one or not?
When I was hired on for my data job, they assigned me a buddy, and he's been in data for about 5 years. So he has been great about pairing with me and bringing me along on tasks and, just providing me with guidance about, he's like a SQL expert. So he's really helped me with that. But my whole team, when my boss hired me, he said, we all work together and we're only as strong as our weakest person. So, and I'm the weakest person. I'm the newest, I know nothing. So my whole team has kind of acted as mentors to me in terms of I I don't feel bad about reaching out to any of them. They're all willing to work with me. They're all really patient. I think that it's important to have a buddy or a mentor when you're starting out. It just kind of it gives you someone to kind of lean on if you're, having a rough day. Like my relationship with my mentor is, we have times where we talk really openly and it's just between the two of us. So it's been a really good experience.
I personally did not have any mentors when I was first starting out. So before I got my first job, it was more so me um, connecting with other people who were also early in their development career. I did not, because I came from such a different background, I did not know anyone in real life that I could turn to for computer engineering, software development, and stuff like that. And so I kind of turned to the online community and connected more so with people who were also starting out. But after I got my job now, um, there is one other female on my team, and we just kind of clicked because we were the only girls and we like dogs, and it was like the rest is history. And the thing about my mentor is she's a really busy person, so I have to be proactive about reaching out and not being scared to like ask a question. um we have scheduled daily like meetings every day where I get to just bombard her with questions, but sometimes she just forgets that we have a meeting. And so it's not because she doesn't want to meet with me, it's just she's so busy, and so I have to like message her, and I do feel annoying, like I'm annoying sometimes, but it's just how it is. That's just how that mentor student relationship is sometimes. And so a mentor is really helpful if you can find one, if you have the luxury to one. And yes, make the most of it.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I kind of share the same experience as Ro. Is in the beginning, it, I didn't really have a mentor. Rather, I had kind of like community of people to exchange, who were in the same boat as I was. Now I actually do have a mentor, she's been at the company. She's been an engineer for like 4 years. She's like level 5 or something, and she's really great. And she taught me that's like how to have a mentor because I never had a mentor before. I don't know how this works. So basically, like if you have a mentor, ideally you would, initially set expectations with each other, what they're expecting of you and vice versa, and formalize your meetings in a way, and in so you could like in a Google Doc or whatever, shared Google Doc, so you can track your growth, have time to meet and check in and look back on your growth so you can see how far you've come, because you're going to need those reminders. Those days are going to come. But yeah, I think starting out, community might be the best. If you can find a mentor, that's even better. But uh that's how it was for me, community, and then actually having a mentor.
Ro and Daniel, you both mentioned like having like reaching out to these communities. Where did you find those? Like Daniel, what kind of communities were you involved in? Were
Yes.
these people that you knew, or?
Nope. All online, like well, for me, as an Afro Latino, there I kind of fit in two boxes. So there's communities for uh Hispanic people and Black people, as well as like Blacks in Tech. There's a community called Code 2040. There's one called Tribaja, one called Techeria. Like there's a bunch, and these are all like Slack channels and like messaging boards and job boards that have online communities that you can talk to people. The actualized alumni channel as well.
How did you find these places? Ro, how did you find your
I just looked around.
communities? Yeah. You just looked around, you just like Google, please help.
Just Googled it.
People.
Are we talking like
People of
Slack,
color in tech.
Discord, Reddit?
Reddit was my
Reddit.
place.
Okay.
My
Reddit?
holy
Okay.
grail. So I started off with CS50, which is the Harvard Intro to Computer Science course. And I was doing the course and I got stuck on this one problem. There is a subreddit for CS50. So I went on there and I basically wrote a post saying, help, I don't know the answer to this. Please someone help me. And so that was how I was able to meet some people there. One thing led to another, and I was meeting weekly with a bunch of other girls who were trying to pave their way into tech. So yeah, be careful because the online community is great, but also can be very, scary and dangerous. But just make your good judge, like trust your gut instinct, make your best judgment, and there are plenty of wonderful people out there that are happy to go on this journey with you.
Very cool. Steve, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question for our three speakers, guest speakers. I want to know what is their day-to-day life as a software engineer.
That's a great question.
I don't know if I am going too fast with your presentation. I don't know.
No, no.
Okay, good. So like day-to-day. Okay. Okay, so like day-to-day life, and when do you wake up? When do like everything, like details, like very, because we are here for that. So give us all the details, and if it's possible, like if when you take like a day off, vacancies and TP, so like everything, please. Thank you very much.
Sure. I start work at 9. I roll out of bed around 8:50 and crawl over to my desk and log in and see what Slack and emails I have lined up that seem important or not. I look at my I usually have work left over from the day before. Keep working on that. I'll probably have a meeting or two. I block out an hour on my calendar for lunch. Make sure you do that to protect self-care, to protect your time. I have an hour of time blocked out for my lunch. Keep working for the rest of the day, typing. I'm at my desk. I'll probably go for a walk, take breaks, maybe play video games or something within there when I'm getting a little restless. And yeah, and
Okay,
my
then
day around.
when you say keep working, what do you mean? Like desk, what do you do in your desk? Like briefly, like
Well,
are you
yeah, so
coding? Are you what type of code?
It depends. It depends on what the ticket is and what my assignment is. Sometimes you'll have assignments that are just investigative. You'll just do research and read articles and look at code and try to figure out what the heck the code is doing. A lot of my time is spent just figuring out what the code is even doing. And then the other half is probably planning and what I'm going to code. And a very small fraction is actually writing the code. Like writing the code is like kind of like a tiny piece of the programmer life. So yeah, I'm at my, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Gail or Ro, what do your days look like?
I'm an early riser because we have a dog that needs to be walked. I'm in the Chicago area, so like my company, you are supposed to be available to work between 9 and 4 Central. Obviously, some people have a slightly different schedule, but I usually get online about 8 a.m. and I like to start before everything starts. So I, like Daniel, I'll look through my Slack messages, look through my emails, check my calendar for the day. My team has, we call it a stand every morning at 9:30 Central. So we meet as a team. We have an Asana board of tasks. So we have a project manager who assigns out the tickets for our team based on priority, based on what your experience is. So they started me out with really small tickets that were not priority things, just so I could kind of get my feet wet. I work a lot with AWS, and with our data system, we have these things called DAGs. They're directed acyclic graphs. So my job lately has been working with the DAGs that are either failing. So my most recent ticket was to set up Slack notifications. My team works closely with the business intelligence team. They're the ones that like make all the graphs and track all of the data. Our team provides the data from the databases to them. So a lot of my job is either looking up data, finding data points for BI and making them accessible, or my most recent ticket was enabling Slack notifications. So like Daniel said, when you get a ticket, the first part is usually discovery, where you do some research, you figure out, you make a blueprint of what you're going to have to do, what types of tasks are involved, if you need any help. So I had to do research on, hey, how do I get Slack notifications from Airflow, which is in AWS, to Slack. So I had to do that through a webhook through IT. So a lot of my day is, and like Daniel said, a very small percentage of my time is actually coding anything. Most of it's doing like troubleshooting and other stuff. Some days I'll have meetings. It might be my team. We have like team huddles once a week. We have a team retro, or we have meetings with the BI team to discuss like what types of data they need. And my team is also rebuilding the data system. So there's just a lot of moving parts. So one of the things I love is that my job is always exciting. It's never the same from day to day. Things can change on the fly, but for the most part, I work 9 to 4, or I'm sorry, 8 to 4 Central, sometimes a little bit later, just depending on if we're in the middle of a task. But that's kind of my day. I do to also block out time for lunch. And on a day that might not be heavy meeting times, I also sometimes block out focus time. So I'll take an hour and put my headphones on. It's time that our focus time to our company is special in terms of, if there's not an emergency, no one will interrupt me during that time because they know, hey, I'm focused on some task.
For me, my schedule's a little wildly different. Oh gosh, like every day's different. Every day I wake up what time I wake up every day is different. So my team is based off of LA. So I'm kind of working Pacific hours. So that means a lot of my meetings are later in the day. So these days I find myself starting work at around 12 p.m., 1 p.m. and I work to like, I've had those Slack huddles at like 11 p.m. before, and I would take breaks in between. So it's not like I'm working nonstop from 12 to 11. It's just everyone's schedule is a little wild. Like I have one of my teammates is a mom, so she has to do kid things, and other people are in different time zones. And so that's what I really enjoy about my job, is that flexibility. Like no one's going to think I'm weird for working at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I've done that before. I have that flexibility. I've worked on the weekends, but that's because I'll like work less on Friday, for example, to make up for it. But today, my day-to-day was, I think I started working at around 12 p.m. I had like 3 or 4 meetings totaling about a couple hours, 3 hours maybe. And then it was basically looking at my tickets. Um, Today's ticket was basically figuring out how to, I'm blanking, but I basically, oh, I worked on a bug. That's right. It's just like there's just so many tickets, it just escapes my mind. But I worked on a bug that was breaking our app, fixed that, did some huddle meetings with my mentor. We like talked through things, and yeah. That's it.
Nice. I do want to be very cognizant of everybody's time. I think we have time for maybe one more question if anybody has a last question. Oh, Mary. What's up?
Okay, so I'm at like the really pivotal point where I'm trying to decide between boot camp and going back to school. And I kind of wanted to know like why you chose going to do the boot camp.
Can I ask, you said going back to school, so do you already have a degree?
No, I don't have a degree. I didn't finish, so I'm going back to finish.
Oh, okay. In my boot camp, we had people who came directly from high school and did boot camp. The reason I chose boot camp is because I did not want to have to go back to school for another 2 or 3 years to get yet another degree. But I think even if you don't have a degree, boot camp can be really helpful. It's way less money. And I feel like you get the same education in terms of, I think you get more practical experience from a boot camp than, like, if you go back to college and get a computer science degree, there are going to be a lot of courses that you have to take that don't necessarily have anything to do with the job that you're going to be doing. And I'm kind of biased toward boot camp because I had such a great experience, and I feel like you can do more faster and you can just focus on coding and GitHub and skills that are actually going to help you land a job. And I feel like from my interviews, more companies are willing to hire boot camp grads than maybe 5 years ago.
I would agree with Gail. You know, when I made the decision to change careers, boot camp was significantly less time and significantly less money. I had thought about like a graduate degree, or I thought about nursing, but everything was like 2 years minimum. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I have 2 years in me to like go back to school, to not work, to like to do something. And so, you know, the boot camp I did actualize, and they had a program in the evening. And so I could, you know, I could work and I could do this at the same time. And it was, you know, far more affordable than a 2-year program would have been, a 4-year program would have been. And so it sort of fit my life in that space and time. Yeah.
The biggest reason was money for me. I already had from university college debt that I didn't want to add more to. Um, yeah, that was the biggest reason. I didn't have a really strong, or I did have a strong support system and 2 people, but there were members in my family that weren't as supportive, which made it difficult to focus on getting a degree for such a long time. And I figured, you know, I'll see if boot camp is for me. If I can't get a job, I might go for that degree then, but let's give this a shot first. So
Yeah, same money. I already have student loans from film school. I didn't want to spend possibly 4+ years in school, like quadruple my student loans for something I could do in a few months at a boot camp for a fraction of the price. So.
Steven, I think we have time for one last question. Or
Yes.
Steve, sorry, I apologize. That N at the end, it
Yes, I
add
know.
it.
It's
Sorry.
my last question. Yes, I think Amanda asked us to ask last questions.
Mhm.
I have 2 last questions, please. The first one is about portfolio. How is it important to build a portfolio as a beginning. So when you start learning programming language or learning or when you start like learning how to code or when you start switching to the software development,
Sure.
how is it important to make a good portfolio? How is it important to use a tool like LeetCode and GitHub, some stuff like that? And how these tools impact our future and our maybe interviews. And the last question, and I will end with that. What is your last advice for us which want to switch from, or which are because me, I'm switching, so I'm actually I'm not thinking. I'm
Seems like
I'm
I'm in, I'm doing it. Give me the advice.
Yeah, I'm not thinking. I am on it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking, I am on it. So what's your advice with people like us? Because I hear that it's not, it wasn't too, it's not like, it's just a year, or for most of us, it's just a year or a year and a half. Then you start working as a software engineer. So what is your advice for us, which coming from non-IT or non-software engineer or non-CS background? Thank you very much.
Okay. I think we should obviously touch on the portfolio question first. So how important do y'all think your portfolio was?
I don't think well, in my experience, so I mentioned that I didn't have a technical interview, and that's because they actually went to my GitHub and they were impressed by the projects that they saw. And so I think to a degree, a portfolio is important because you can showcase your talent in a way that might not be showcased in a technical interview. And so in that regard, I think it's really important. And also, like, isn't it fun to like keep a record of all the things you've made, look back on it, maybe improve upon it in the future? So I think mostly for yourself, I think a portfolio is a great idea. GitHub is really easy. Yeah.
I want to hear what Daniel has to say. He did one of these. So what is this? What is this?
Oh, that's just like it's definitely important, but it's not like the end of the world if your portfolio isn't like up to the most amazing ever.
Yeah.
It's important, but I think I would try to focus a little more on the actual, like the technical interview and your behavioral interviews, and just being a good candidate that they're gonna like to spend time with.
Unfortunately, that's a big thing, the algos and data structures.
Yeah.
I agree with Ro. GitHub is, and that was another benefit to Actualize. We did everything on GitHub, so it's really easy once you get the hang of it. Everything's in one place. And part of the reason I landed my apprenticeship is because the guy who interviewed me went to my GitHub and saw that I was still working on stuff and still pushing code. And he was impressed that I didn't just stop coding after boot camp. I kept going, I kept working on stuff. So
you can also do LeetCode, data structure practice on your computer and upload it to GitHub, and that could be a part of your portfolio.
I did that, absolutely.
I would argue that the more robust your portfolio is, the larger it is, the greater likelihood that you will not have a technical interview and that they'll just hire you based on the work that they have seen you do. So that is my pitch. I am a big fan of portfolio work. I say, yeah.
Just be prepared to answer any questions they have on any piece of code on your portfolio.
Right.
I was asked a question on my dog app that I created like 4 months ago, and I could not remember anything, but somehow I was able to finesse through it. It was okay, but just make sure you're putting up stuff that you can answer questions to.
That's really solid advice, Ro. All right. Final advice. What do you got?
Just keep going. Don't stop.
Yep. Exactly.
It's scary. It's hard, but keep doing it and you'll get there.
My final advice is because leak or data structures and algos is such a big part of getting that first job, even 30 minutes a day leak coding is good enough. Just start out small, but be consistent. That's the most important thing.
Yep, I agree with both of those. That's the best thing you can do is just keep going and keep practicing and make sure that you practice a little bit every day. Carve out time to practice and yeah.
Excellent. All right. Thank you again to our panelists. It has been really, really wonderful to hear all of your insights and your thoughts and hear about your journeys. I am really grateful to y'all to spending this time with us. Thank you to our attendees also spending this time with us. It has been really great to hear your questions. Please, 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 if you have anything else at all, feel free. I should have like posted my email address or something. Feel free to reach out to any of us. We're all on LinkedIn.
Yeah, find us
so
on LinkedIn.
definitely.
Friend us on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
already
Ask
do
us
that.
questions
Already
and
do that.
stuff.
I send a
Wonderful.
request to Danielle.
Oh,
to
Steve's like
Gail, to
on it.
yeah, already.
Perfect. That's awesome. Great. And please keep an eye out in the future. We're going to be hosting more of these kind of discussion style events. I would love to hear any feedback that you have about them, any ideas that you have for future topics of conversation. We're open to all of it. This was like a first one, and I think it went really well, and I'm really excited about this.
I know. Thank you all for being here. This was wonderful.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for
So glad
having
to be
us.
Thanks for
here.
having us.